From the moment the news broke, America, and indeed the world, was plunged into a collective state of disbelief and profound sorrow. For a generation, the question, "Where were you when you heard?" would become a haunting echo. On a seemingly ordinary autumn day in 1963, the optimism and youthful promise embodied by President John F. Kennedy were shattered by the crack of rifle fire, forever altering the course of history and leaving behind a legacy steeped in both tragedy and enduring mystery. Good day, history enthusiasts. Today, we delve into one of the most pivotal and harrowing events of the 20th century, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. It's a story of a nation's beloved leader, a fateful motorcade, and the chaotic aftermath that continues to captivate and divide opinion even 6 decades later. We'll navigate the established facts, explore the immediate fallout, and touch upon the persistent questions that have fueled countless theories. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the charismatic 35th President of the United States, was a figure of immense hope and glamour. His presidency, often romanticized as Camelot, promised a new era of progress, civil rights, and a bold approach to the Cold War. By November 1963, Kennedy was midway through his first term, grappling with complex domestic and international challenges. He had announced his intention to seek re-election in 1964, and a crucial part of his strategy involved shoring up political support in Texas, a state vital to his campaign. Texas was, at the time, a politically volatile state. There were deep divisions within the Democratic Party, and conservative opposition to Kennedy's liberal policies was palpable. To unite the fractured party and boost his re-election prospects, Kennedy embarked on a 2-day, 5-city tour of the state alongside his wife, First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, and Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Texan himself. The atmosphere in Texas was charged, with both fervent supporters and vocal detractors turning out in force. On the morning of Friday, the 22nd of November 1963, the presidential party arrived in Dallas, the third stop on their Texas tour. The city was known for its conservative leanings and, at times, hostile political climate. Despite some security concerns, the decision was made for the president to ride in an open-top limousine through the streets of Dallas, allowing him to greet the crowds lining the route. The motorcade was scheduled to travel from Love Field Airport, through downtown Dallas, and eventually to the Dallas Trade Mart, where Kennedy was due to deliver a luncheon speech. As the clock edged towards 12:30, the presidential motorcade, a procession of official cars and security personnel, made its way through the cheering throngs. President Kennedy, with Mrs. Kennedy by his side, sat in the back seat of a dark blue, open-top 1961 Lincoln Continental, registration number GG300. In front of them sat Governor John Connally of Texas and his wife, Nellie. Vice President Johnson's car followed closely behind. At approximately 12:30 p.m., the motorcade turned a sharp left onto Elm Street, heading towards an underpass. The street sloped gently downwards, bringing the limousine past the infamous Texas School Book Depository building on the right. Crowds were gathered along the pavement, eager to catch a glimpse of the popular president. It was a bright, sunny day, seemingly perfect for a public appearance. Then, the unthinkable happened. As the presidential limousine passed the Texas School Book Depository, a sudden volley of shots rang out, shattering the festive atmosphere. Eyewitness accounts vary, but most recall hearing at least 3 distinct rifle shots. The first shot, many believe, struck President Kennedy in the upper back, passing through his neck. Governor Connally, seated in front, was also gravely wounded, hit in the back, chest, wrist, and thigh by what would later become known as the magic bullet, a single projectile theorized to have caused 7 wounds in both men. This particular theory, central to the official investigation, would later become a major point of contention and disbelief for many. Compelling historical fact 1. The magic bullet theory posits that a single bullet, identified as Commission Exhibit 399, struck Kennedy in the back, exited his throat, then entered Governor Connally's back, exited his chest, struck his right wrist, and finally lodged in his left thigh. This intricate trajectory was crucial for the Warren Commission to conclude that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, as it meant only 2 bullets were needed for all the recorded injuries, with the third being the fatal headshot. Mrs. Kennedy, initially confused, quickly realized the horror unfolding. Governor Connally cried out, "Oh, no, 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 my God, they're going to kill us all." The final shot, devastatingly, struck President Kennedy in the head, causing a catastrophic wound. The limousine sped away, leaving behind a scene of utter chaos and terror in Dealey Plaza. Spectators ducked for cover. Screams filled the air, and a profound sense of shock gripped everyone present. Within minutes, the presidential limousine arrived at Parkland Memorial Hospital. Doctors made frantic attempts to save the president's life, but his injuries were too severe. At 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, on the 22nd of November 1963, President John F. Kennedy was pronounced dead. The news was relayed to a stunned nation and a grieving world. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, now president, was whisked away to Air Force One, waiting at Love Field, to be sworn in. On board Air Force One, just 2 hours and 8 minutes after Kennedy's death, Lyndon B. Johnson took the oath of office as the 36th President of the United States. Mrs. Kennedy, still wearing her blood-stained pink Chanel suit, stood stoically by his side. The iconic image of Johnson taking the oath, surrounded by grim-faced officials, symbolized the sudden, brutal transfer of power and the nation's attempt to restore order amidst unprecedented turmoil. Simultaneously, the hunt for the assassin was underway in Dallas. Within an hour of the shooting, a suspect had emerged: Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald, a 24-year-old former Marine with a troubled past, had been employed at the Texas School Book Depository. He had a peculiar history, including an attempt to defect to the Soviet Union in 1959 and later open support for Fidel Castro's Cuba. He was known to be politically disaffected and had, just months prior, allegedly attempted to assassinate retired Major General Edwin Walker. Compelling historical fact 2. Lee Harvey Oswald's background was highly unusual for a presidential assassin. After serving in the Marines, he attempted to defect to the Soviet Union in 1959, living there for 2 years before returning to the U.S. He was a self-proclaimed Marxist and formed a chapter of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in New Orleans, openly supporting Fidel Castro, a public stance that made him a controversial figure long before the assassination. Oswald had reportedly left the depository building shortly after the shots were fired. Approximately 45 minutes later, he shot and killed Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit, who had stopped him for questioning. Oswald was subsequently apprehended at the Texas Theater after a brief struggle. He denied involvement in both killings. famously declaring, "I'm just a patsy." Quote, however, the story took another shocking turn just 2 days later. On Sunday, the 24th of November, as Oswald was being transferred from the Dallas police headquarters to the county jail, he was shot and fatally wounded by Jack Ruby, a Dallas nightclub owner, live on national television. This extraordinary event, witnessed by millions, immediately sparked widespread suspicion and fueled the nascent conspiracy theories surrounding Kennedy's death. Compelling historical fact 3. Jack Ruby's murder of Lee Harvey Oswald was the first assassination captured live on American television. Ruby, whose real name was Jacob Rubenstein, owned several Dallas nightclubs and had a reputation for associating with organized crime figures. His stated motive was to spare Jacqueline Kennedy the ordeal of testifying at Oswald's trial. But his actions only deepened the mystery and added another layer of intrigue to the already complex narrative. In the immediate aftermath, President Johnson established the Warren Commission, chaired by Chief Justice Earl Warren, to investigate the assassination. After a 10-month inquiry, the commission released its exhaustive 888-page report on the 24th of September 1964. Its primary conclusion was that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in assassinating President Kennedy and wounding Governor Connally, firing 3 shots from the 6th-floor window of the Texas School Book Depository. It also concluded that Jack Ruby acted alone in killing Oswald. Despite the Commission's definitive findings, public confidence in its report was never absolute. The speed of the inquiry, certain inconsistencies in witness testimonies, and the sheer audacity of the events themselves led to widespread skepticism. The Zapruder film, an amateur home movie capturing the entire assassination sequence, became a crucial, yet controversial, piece of evidence. Its frames were meticulously analyzed, often leading to more questions than answers, particularly regarding the direction of the fatal headshot and the timing of the wounds. Compelling historical fact 4. The Zapruder film, a silent, color 8mm home movie shot by Abraham Zapruder, provides the most comprehensive visual record of the assassination. Its 486 frames, lasting just 26.6 seconds, show the entire sequence from the motorcade turning onto Elm Street until it disappears under the triple underpass. Crucially, the film depicts Kennedy's head snapping violently backwards and to the left after the fatal shot, which many interpreted as evidence of a shot coming from the front or right, contradicting the Warren Commission's conclusion of a lone shooter from the rear. This visual evidence dramatically fueled conspiracy theories. Over the decades, countless alternative theories emerged, suggesting everything from a lone, disgruntled individual to a vast government conspiracy involving the CIA, the Mafia, anti-Castro Cubans, pro-Castro Cubans, the Soviet Union, or even elements within the U.S. military-industrial complex. The single-bullet theory, as discussed earlier, was a particular flashpoint for critics, who found it physically implausible. In an attempt to address the persistent doubts, the United States House of Representatives established the House Select Committee on Assassinations, HSCA, in 1976 to re-investigate the murders of both President Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. The HSCA conducted extensive research, reviewed new evidence, and heard from numerous experts. Its final report, published in 1979, largely agreed with the Warren Commission that Oswald fired the shots that killed Kennedy. However, in a significant departure, The HSCA concluded that Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. While it could not identify the other conspirators or the extent of the conspiracy, it hypothesized that there was a high probability that two gunmen fired at the president. This finding, based partly on controversial acoustic evidence, further complicated the official narrative and gave renewed credence to the idea of a wider plot. Compelling historical fact 5. The House Select Committee on Assassinations, HSCA, concluded in 1979 that there was a probable conspiracy in the assassination of President Kennedy, a direct contradiction to the Warren Commission's lone gunman theory. This conclusion was largely based on acoustic evidence from a police dictabelt recording, which suggested a high probability of 4 shots being fired, implying a second shooter. However, the reliability of this acoustic evidence has been heavily debated and challenged by subsequent analyses. Despite the HSCA's findings, no definitive, universally accepted evidence has ever emerged to conclusively prove a conspiracy or identify additional shooters. The official stance of the U.S. government largely remains that Oswald acted alone. Though the HSCA reports probable conspiracy, conclusion is often acknowledged. The assassination of John F. Kennedy remains one of the most profound and traumatic events in modern history. It stripped America of its youthful innocence, fostering a deep-seated distrust in government and public institutions that would resonate for decades. The loss of Kennedy, a symbol of hope and progress, cast a long shadow over the subsequent presidencies of Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon, and arguably contributed to the national malaise of the late 1960s and 1970s. The unanswered questions surrounding that fateful day in Dallas continue to fascinate and frustrate historians, researchers, and the public alike. Was it the act of a lone, disturbed individual, or the result of a meticulously planned conspiracy? The truth, perhaps, lies buried beneath layers of conflicting evidence, lost opportunities, and the passage of time. What is undeniable is the enduring impact of the 22nd of November 1963, a day when the world stopped, and a nation's dreams were irrevocably altered. The legacy of JFK lives on, but so too does the haunting mystery of his death, a wound in the collective memory that has never fully healed. Thank you for joining us on this journey through a pivotal moment in history. If you found this exploration compelling, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel for more historical insights, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring the past to understand our present.